right, fight fans, gather around. We've got a main event coming at you this weekend that promises to be an absolute barn burner. Diego Lopes versus Gene Silva, this Saturday night's UFC Fight Night main event. The stakes couldn't be higher for this one, folks. The winner of this clash will punch their ticket to a shot at Alexander Volkanovski's featherweight title. Now, I gotta tell you, a lot of people are counting Diego Lopes out, with Gene Silva getting the lion's share of the betting action. Is that fair? I'd say it's debatable, especially after we saw two highly touted fighters, Barajo and Rufi, stumble at the last event, with Rufi being a heavy favorite. So why is Lopes such an underdog here? It probably all boils down to his last outing, where he came up short against Alex Volkanovski and missed his chance at gold. But was it really that bad? I wouldn't go that far. He certainly lost decisively, no doubt about Volkanovski's victory, but Lopes actually managed to score a knockdown in the second round, and one of the judges even gave him 2 rounds. Despite his BJJ, Lopes didn't even think about grappling with Volkanovski that night. In fact, his takedown defense looked pretty solid. Diego decided he could beat the champ on the feet and miscalculated. He got the knockdown, sure, but otherwise, he was outmatched. Lopes ate a lot of shots in that fight, and honestly, taking damage hasn't been his best attribute throughout his career. He gets hit, and he's fortunate he has such a durable chin. And it wasn't just Volkanovski who was landing clean. Even in his win against Dan Ige in the 3rd round, he was taking just as much punishment as he did against Volkanovski. All of this probably contributes to Lopes being such a significant underdog. But you know what? It's a common effect after a loss. Everyone focuses on a fighter's weaknesses. That doesn't mean he's lost his strengths. Everyone has an off night. Lopes has an incredible start to his fights. He pushes the pace hard from the get-go, and not every fighter can keep up, even when they're fresh. Gavin Tucker, Sodiq Yusuff, and Pat Sabatini were all finished early in their fights. One quick finish, maybe luck. 3 in a row, that's a pattern, folks. Dan Ige and Brian Ortega may have gone the distance, but they were absolutely dismantled in the first round. Lopes' starts are just phenomenal, and his ground game, while his control and takedowns might not be elite, if you find yourself on the mat with Lopes, best case scenario, you'll see 1 submission attempt. Worst case, the fight is over. And that's psychologically a huge advantage for Lopes. He doesn't have to worry too much if he gets taken down, unlike pure strikers. He can focus on his striking without a second thought and take risks, because if his opponent tries to take him down, the risks suddenly be on them. And what about the cardio? He looked rough against Dan Ige in the 3rd round, I'll grant you that, but Dan put in some great work there. However, going 5 rounds with Volkanovski wasn't an issue. He didn't lose that fight because of cardio, he just simply wasn't as good on the feet that night. Now, what about Gene Silva? A serious favorite, many might say. Wow! And yes, he's undefeated in the UFC, 5-0, but his opposition, while solid, has been a bit easier than Lopes's. Diego will be the first true test of whether Silva is ready to compete with top 5 caliber fighters. On the feet, he's been unmatched so far. Speed, timing, knockout power, clinch work, and most importantly for his style, an 86% takedown defense. For a guy whose entire plan and style is built around striking, having great defense is absolutely crucial. And so far, Silva has maintained that high percentage. Did I get you there? Of course, that 86% is complete hogwash. He built that stat against Bryce Mitchell, a guy who thinks the earth is flat and doesn't have the best takedowns. Mitchell is great on the ground, but his takedowns have always been average at best. He landed 1 takedown out of 14 attempts, which significantly boosted the Brazilian's defense percentage. And here again, it's all about psychology. Bryce wasn't confident in his striking, which made him desperate for takedowns. Most of those attempts were poorly set up. This also ties back to Lopes, who isn't worried about being taken down or having a fight on the feet. He's well-rounded, but more on that in a moment. Charles Jourdain, you probably know this Canadian, famous for his zissy Sparta strike and incredible brawls. He took Silva down 3 times, but his control wasn't there that night. I'm not saying Silva's grappling is bad, no. I'm saying we don't know if it's truly good. Is he ready to fight 5 rounds at a high pace, for instance? He hasn't been in situations where he could fully answer those questions, so ascertaining whether his defense is good or bad is quite difficult. But now for the really interesting part. Who should win here, Silva or Lopes? I, for one, would actually put their chances at 60-40 in favor of Lopes. I don't agree with him being the underdog, but 40% for Silva isn't insignificant, of course, and I wouldn't be surprised if Silva wins. Silva needs to be careful early in the fight, avoid getting taken down, and most importantly, not let the fight turn into a brawl. Carefully, step by step, he needs to find openings in Lopes' defense and unleash his weapons. That's a very real scenario. But the question is Gene Silva capable of all this? Can he avoid takedowns? Can he endure 5 rounds of a high pace if he can't get the finish? Because Lopes' chin is still granite. And what about the ground game? There are a lot of unanswered questions there. That's why Lopes looks more intriguing to me. He's simply a more proven commodity. We know his strengths and weaknesses. Lopes is a more predictable character for us than Silva. He can even surprise you with his start. Silva shouldn't play around with him like he has with other opponents. This is a fighter of a different caliber, and I think the Brazilian will play around, at least until he takes the first serious shot. Plus, Lopes sets a high pace and looks for the finish from the opening bell. That's something new for the Brazilian as well. And of course, the grappling exchanges. At any second, this fight could hit the mat, whether it's a takedown from Lopes or someone gets dropped. And that's where the Brazilian-Mexican will have even more surprises in store. And the 5-round distance inspires more confidence in Lopes. I think this is precisely the case where a loss actually helped him. In the fight with Volkanovski, Lopes didn't look terrible. There are things to work on. And a gritty fight like that is more likely to bear fruit for him than make him worse. So I'm expecting a fantastic performance from Lopes this weekend. As for the title contender, yes, if Diego Lopes wins, it's unlikely he'll get a rematch with Volkanovski. There's still Movsar Evliovec, the #1 contender. But if Gene Silva wins, it would be undeserved to give him a title shot over Evliovec. But you wouldn't believe how likely that scenario is. After a win over Lopes, he'll be in the top 3, and that's a legitimate reason to give him a title shot, especially considering his rising popularity and the fact that 2 other fighting nerds faltered. Even how Prados after Gare has fallen back a bit, even though he avenged that loss. And out of all these rising stars, Silva currently has the best chance to become the main leader and engine of these fighting nerds, if, of course, he gets the win. After a victory, a title shot's in his pocket if things line up right. So what do you say, friends? Drop your comments below. Who do you think takes it this weekend? Who has the better shot? Until next time, folks, take care!